Whenever you're ready.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, good morning and welcome to our summer coffee with council session. I want to thank you all for coming. To those people who are at home watching online, we appreciate you for being here. I know there have been some. It's in the way of my coffee now. Okay.
This is Scott Barnes. He's the head of our community.
He just wandered in. Some guy who just wandered in. So this is your opportunity to provide feedback to council. We're hoping that we can have an open discussion, a cordial discussion, and you can be able to ask your questions that you have. And we have staff available here to help answer any of your questions, specific ones you might have. And if you don't get an answer to your question, or we cannot answer your question today, we will get your contact information and we will get an answer to you as soon as possible. So just a reminder that this Coffee with Council is live streamed and posted on YouTube. This will allow members of the public who are unable to attend today to listen to the discussion. And because it's live streamed, we ask you to be careful of the things you do say. So if you were to mention other people or someone's contact information, that could be something that could be problematic. So please keep that in mind. If you do have a question or a comment, we ask that you raise your hand and we will have a staff member come to you with a microphone. And that way the people at home can hear it as well. And then please speak loudly into the microphone. We want to get to as many questions as possible, and so try to be as concise as possible. So, we have some submitted questions, but maybe we should start with some questions from the audience, and then we can deal with some of the concerns or questions you might have. So if you have a question, feel free to put your hand up, and then we'll talk about the questions that have been submitted. We have a question over here from Linda.
I have a question about mowing. I realize mowing may have been cut down, and that's fine, but I live in Glenwood, the forgotten area of Strathmore, which has been there since 1955. And when they come to mow, they always send a team afterward to do the trim around the trees, etc. So the first time they mowed this year, it was done promptly. The second time, it was 3 days later, and today it is day 8 from when they mowed the lawn in Glenwood, and there has been no trim done. So I was hoping that Donna McCallum would be here, or somebody that, anyway, if somebody can answer my question at some point.
Thank you. I'll turn to one of the staff members, Jamie, who is our Director of Infrastructure and Operations.
Good morning. My name is Jamie Dugdale, Director of Infrastructure Operations and Development Services, so I'll share that with Donna. I think we'd like to have a better standard than that, so I do apologize. So I'll share that with Donna McCallum and make sure that we do a little better job at kind of returning to do that trimming. So I'll definitely share that with her. Yeah, I'll share that with her.
Thank you. Are there other questions? Oh, we have a question from Clara and the gentleman in yellow or lime green.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning. I have been over to the new site at the garbage disposal site, and I was recycling, sorry, yeah. And I was quite surprised because I haven't been there for quite some time, and I'm so used to go to the Hochstedt one, and I was quite shocked coming to what now has apparently been what town is utilizing. First of all, we don't use the bin system because I find it inconvenient for me because I have 6 boxes or 7 or more, you know, with one with soft plastic, one with hard plastic, and so on and so on. So I used to go to Hochstedt and just within a few minutes have it all dumped in from my blue boxes into the various ones. And now I came to what at the present is what the town is running, and I'm kind of questioning why are we now having that one compared to what seemed to work very, very well with the Hochsteds. Because, first of all, I'm a short person, and I cannot get up to those little rectangle places and dump in my garbage, no matter what it is. The only thing that was available was just to dump in was the soft plastic one. All the other ones was impossible for me to do, especially if it was a windy day, you know, it would be blowing all over the place and I can't reach up either. So my question is, why have we gone from the Hochsted service over to what apparently now is what the town provides on the south side of
Okay,
Hochsted?
thank you. And you're not the first person who's asked us that as far as the height of the bins. I know our CAO and I have talked, and one of the options that would help, maybe, and I can ask you if it would help, is if there were stairs at those new bins, would
Well,
that
there
help?
is little step stools or whatever it
But
is.
you need a large.
But yeah, but also I cannot take my containers and dump them in, you know, as we were
Okay.
able to do previously.
Okay.
Because you have to stand and take one item out at a time
Right.
and reach up into those little slots.
Okay. Is there someone on staff I can turn to as far as the change from Huckstead to Blue Planet as far as recycling, and then what we can do as far as the bin heights and seniors who need to get up to the bins to get rid of their recyclables?
Good morning again. So the reason we switched recycling locations was we switched to Blue Planet. They're a different contractor that's collecting garbage for us and running the recycle yard. So like the mayor said, we can certainly look at how that's working for people or not working for people and perhaps make some changes. So we went from Waste Management to Blue Planet as the provider, so that required us to change the location of the recycle depot. But if residents are having problems getting their recycles put there, then we can certainly look at better solutions to allow people to do that more easily.
So my question is, why did we switch from the
Okay, so
Christian service that we have? Usually when you switch up, you upgrade, you improve what you have to downgrade.
sure, and I mean, our intention is to improve service, so that's why we'll look at that. But every certain amount of years, when a contract's over, we do what we call an RFP. So we go out to market, and then private companies will respond to that RFP, and we'll look at all the submissions, and we'll make a decision based on who gives us the best submission. So that's kind of why that changed. Obviously, our desire is that service will remain the same or get better. So that's why I'll take that away, and we'll look at how we can make the recycle depot look better for you. Yes. Yeah, sure. If you give me a few weeks, a couple of months, and I know I have to talk with my manager of infrastructure first and talk about solutions, and we have to look at what that might cost and how to source them, but we can definitely take that away, and hopefully in a month or two you'll see a difference.
Attention. Thank you. Now, we live over on Lakeside Views, and we have a little garden area, park area in front of us. A couple of years ago, I think it is now, we had some tree pruning service that the town hired, apparently to take down dead trees and so on. Now, at the moment, and it has been there for all the time we have been here in town, a big poplar tree on the south end of the garden area. And I just took a walk to the garden area this morning, and I'm quite disappointed, really, of what a beautiful area we have in there and how it seems to be not being able to be kept. All the dead branches from that tree, because so many of the branches is dead, and they are laying all over the ground, and of course that doesn't make it any better. but also we have quite a few park staff, young people that comes to work. And they come in now. We were not around in the early spring as they start to do the maintenance work. But I've been kind of watching it over the years that we've been here. And who is in charge of educating those young ones and supervising them and guiding them to what to do? Because nowadays they seem to kind of come in a group with a truck, park the truck, and then 4 or 5 or 6 of them comes out. And I think they need some guidance and supervision to be able to be utilizing the time and the effort the town put into to try to keep our parks and areas beautified. Because I think the resources is there, but I'm just kind of questioning, are there anybody going out and giving the instruction on what to do? Because you can't expect the young ones to be able to just kind of come and know everything. So quite often they kind of sit there and having a good time, and of course they're picking some here and there, but when you have to get to the bottom of weeds, you just don't pull. You get in and get to the main.
Clara, I can tell you that I had an informal talk with Donna McCallum, who's in charge of the park staff, grounds crews, and she's got in her mind some things to do. She wants to spend more time mentoring and working with the young people, so it's on our radar, and I'm sure Donna McCallum will be a positive force with those workers.
Well, they're a wonderful bunch of young ones. It's just that I feel that they are not educated enough to be able to really.
Yeah, I just want to assure you that Dawn is aware, and she's going to spend time working with her staff and mentoring.
Would appreciate that. I think it would be beneficial for everything and everybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Claire, if I can just follow up on that too, so, you know, one of the things that that's really useful for Donna, because, you know, she now, our town is growing, and this has been a really bad year for winter kill. Like, there was a lot of winter kill, and one of the things that really helps is if people communicate through the communication forum. It's not always convenient for people. You know, if you don't like using computers, or you don't necessarily think that's your best thing. But one of the things that you can do, you can always you can phone any one of the councillors. Our numbers are public, or and ask us to do it too. And if you give us a date, like Lakeside Mews, and we know on the corner, and now on the town property there's deadfall. And if she knows that, she's very, very more likely. Don't except in the case of Linda, who just took 8 days to get mowing done. And Donna probably has a rational reason. It's probably due to the frickin' water crisis that she's been dealing with. But it's good for them to know, because then it's recorded, then they know they have your statement, and it's now an expectation that there is a follow-up and that something happens. So that citizen communication forum is really useful. I know Councillor Langmaid is really good. She guides lots and lots of people through it too, to get to where it needs to do it. So we'll definitely do that. We'd be happy to do that. And I know that Donna would be grateful to know, because it really helps her. Yeah. And you know that, and you're not alone. You know that it's not the easiest to navigate, for sure. So. Yeah. This is informal, and this is really good. Yeah. No, you've made no mistake. But if it happens again, you know. Yeah. Yeah. No, you've made no mistake. No, this is exactly the place to bring it. And if we can make that process easier for you when it happens, or should it happen again. Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's important. It is beautiful. Yeah. Yeah. No, it's good to know.
Thank you, Clara, and thank you, Councillor Peterson. Question from the gentleman back there. We have a microphone coming to you right now.
Good morning. I have a few questions, actually. It's regarding Park Lane Drive. Obviously, Anthem United is doing some development back there, and it's been surveyed, everything else. Number one, none of the residents have received a plot plan or anything else about what's going on back there with the new one. I mean, that development's been going on for 18 years now. They're finally doing something with it. There's been many, many changes made, and we really haven't got any answers to what's going on. I have a call into Anthem United. I'm waiting for a return on it, to be quite honest. However, in the original proposal, there was supposed to be, I believe it was about 86 houses back there. Then all of a sudden, it went up to about 186 houses. Part of that, obviously, was land costs, because when Stantec was the engineer on record, they obviously made a mistake because the fill that was moved from the ranch over to the commercial area raised the elevation over there substantially and lowered the elevation behind us. So there was additional costs involved, and I can understand the lot costs, everything else that go with it. However, in saying that, with the added residential units that have gone in there, council, and it wasn't this council, it was the previous one or the one before, had passed a narrow lot bylaw. The original understanding was all the perimeter lots were supposed to be 50 feet. That back onto Park Lane Drive. My understanding now they're all 35 feet. And secondly, there was supposed to be a buffer zone of 10 meters between property line to property line. And that was derived actually when I believe Mr. Graysick was mayor and that council. And then the previous council went down to the narrower lot sizes. So there is a concern with the residents along Park Lane Drive, whether that buffer is still in place or not, or whether we're going to have a 35-foot property backing right onto our property line. And there's other things that go with it. I guess the road that was proposed that was going to join Park Line from Clyburn Trail, that was taken out of the original plan because Park Lane Drive is not a commuter road. You're making it a commuter road now. Actually, you look at, I think if you look at a lot of information that's I've researched on the web on that, the minimum width of a commuter road is 44 feet. Park Lane Drive is 42 feet. Also, they have driveways backing onto the road all the way along. So in saying that, I guess you have to look at snow clearing, which has always been an issue in Park Lane. It's a bus route, everything else. Your plows come down, they windrow the stuff in front of all the residents, and that, maybe some of you know now, I'm sure you do, cars with all their safety features. My wife's car won't even back over one. The car shuts down. So there have been calls made to the people responsible for snow clearing and that. I'm sorry, I can't remember the name of your department. And the response has been, we're allowed to windrow snow to the height of 1 meter. That was it. So they block people in. There's a lot of elderly people on that street. I don't put myself into that category, but I'll be quite honest, I have blown out people's driveways with my snow blower. I've had the bylaw officer come and tell me I can't do anything on the street. How do people get out of their driveways? So what are your plans if that is going to be a commuter road or a collector road? I guess, what are your plans for the intersection on Freeman Trail and that? There's not enough room for a right turn in there. You're going to have to take a house out. You know, on the other side, you've put a right turn exit in and a throughway and that. But on the other side, there's nothing there. So you have one lane that's going to take that traffic. How are you going to deal with that? You know, and I mean, we could go on and on. I could take all morning going over this. But I guess the big thing is the development. There's no information out there from no one. We don't know what's going on.
Okay, thank you. I think I can turn to our staff as far as how we can get more information to you as far as what Anthem has planned. As far as that road from Ranch going on to Park Lane Drive that's proposed, as long as I've been on council, it's always been a thing that's supposed to be coming, that connector road over to Park Lane Drive. I am not aware of any council that has said it'll never be a connector to Park Lane Drive. As far as Park Lane Drive, I believe it is a connector road, and like you said, it does have school buses on it. So we can definitely look at getting more information to you. I can explain the R1N, the narrower lots. What Strathmore has tried to do is find a way to have more people be able to get into housing, because as you all know, we're in a housing crisis in Strathmore, and there's young people who have very difficult times affording. The inflation is really high. The interest rates are still very reasonable, but to get into a home, you need a lot of money. And the other thing that the council that I was on did that brought about or helped bring about the narrower lots is that Strathmore is a rural town, and we're trying to avoid urban sprawl into farmland. So we've increased the density in our town, and I understand that some of you who have big properties with big lots may have some reservations about a narrower lot, a 35 instead of a 50 frontage. I don't think it necessarily means that you're going to have a bad situation behind you, but we do need to be cognizant or aware of reducing our spread into agricultural land as much as we can, and to also try to make housing at least attainable for younger families. And so we did go ahead with some narrower lots. I know that may not sit well with the people who are on Park Lane Drive, but I think our staff, maybe our CAO or Jamie, we can talk about getting you information as to what's planned in that Anthem area. And you're right, it's been sitting for a long time, and they are staking out and getting ready to go. And I'm just wondering, is that road that's going to connect to Park Lane from Ranch, is that where the empty lot is? Is there an empty lot, like a park kind of a space, a small green space? Yeah, and that's right where the road is going to come to Park Lane? Yep.
And originally, the comment you had made, where you've never seen anything where it hasn't been a road, I would refute that, because when that development first went in and we sat down with United and Stantec, that's when they came to the buffer zone. We're supposed to be a 10-foot buffer zone between property line and property line, and then the development of cul-de-sacs, there was half a diamond where it went in with cul-de-sacs joint, so about every 3-4 houses, there'd be a little half diamond in there to develop. When you look at the other side, halfway there. And part of that is Strathmore's commitment for a pathway system, because there is no pathway system. You know, from Park Lane behind, I mean, you can go up the road where the canal is, the sidewalk just stops. It plows snow there, you have to walk in the road. You have to go about 10 feet on the road. You know, so through that whole thing, and then the connector road, it was originally in there. Stantec and United took it out and made it an emergency road, just like they have it going up through the back entrance. There's a fire crossing it through the collapsible bollards that they go through in that to prevent traffic from coming on the park. Now, I know there's been letters written to you, and I was the author of one of them, and that opposing that road, and
Thank you. I understand your concerns on Parkland Drive. The traffic part or the speeding part, that's something that we can look into as well. You also had a comment about windrows, and I don't think there's an easy fix to not having windrows, because when you plow a street, it's got to go to one side or the other, and so it does create windrows. I get them on my street as well. They're all through Strathmore. But the only way to get rid of a windrow is if you were lifting your blade at every driveway and not plowing it onto driveways, which would be incredibly slow. Pardon me? Or changing in angling it towards to middle of the street.
You have green space starting at Parkway or in the middle of it, and then you go down the road, I'm going to say a couple of blocks, there's a lift station where the canal goes under, it goes under Parkway, and then dumps water into the new development. Over there, it used to go under the highway into Clybur's land, and that's been shut off. So it just creates a storm pond, for lack of a better word, in the ranch development. So, you know, there's places to dump that snow, and there's places to get rid of it off the road. And I can go back in Strathmore before, where they windrowed the snow into the middle of the road. And the complaint was, oh gosh, I got to drive around the block to get into my driveway. Well, you know what? You can still get into your driveway.
Well, we can actually, I can turn to staff to explain why we don't create a pile in the middle of the streets. They'll probably be able to address that. As far as dumping snow into those areas, again, I don't have the operational experience. I can turn to our staff for that. But again, as far as my knowledge as a councillor, I have always thought that Ranch Road was going to connect to Park Lane Drive. Now, I'm not sure about the bollard system, but again, we can address your questions as far as seeing the plan and finding out about the buffer zone as far as what you folks were told and what the new design looks like. Can I turn to Jamie?
Sure. So I guess I'll answer the question, or try to answer the question first on the planning items. The ranch development, one of the challenges we have with that is it was, I guess, conceptualized before we required what's called an area structure plan, which is a process through council. It's a plan that's adopted through council by a bylaw. The ranch, again, was approved before we used those as a tool in Strathmore. So way back when, probably around 2000, I'm not sure when that was done, but the public wouldn't have got the same kind of input as they would if we got a new ASP today. The reason that development has the through road is, and you mentioned it when you were asking questions, was with relation to emergency access, the number of homes in there. We did bring a report to council in, I believe, July of 2021, kind of summarizing both the engineering rationale as well as the fire and EMS rationale for that through road. So that would have went to council in July of 2021, just to ensure that they were, again, on side with why staff made that decision to approve the subdivision in that way. But as the mayor said, we can get you that most recent subdivision approval so you're aware of it. And the rezoning as well would have gone through a public hearing. I think there was 2 rezonings in that phase that changed, like you suggested, from larger lots to smaller lots. On the snow removal, yeah, we hear about windrows every year. It's a challenge. Unfortunately, we can't just dump snow anywhere. Environmental regulations from the province are quite stringent these days. That's why we have a snow dump, and we actually improved our snow dump in the last couple of years to make sure it was compliant. That being said, this fall, every fall we come to council with an update on snow removal and our practices, and to find out if council feels the public would support any changes, again, with increased resources. We did, I think a couple of years ago, consider windrows in the middle of the street, like you suggested. While yourself and some people might be happy with that, some other people, like you said, might not be. It doesn't mean we can't do that, and we'll look at it again. But again, in September, we'll be coming to council with an update. So I would suggest you share your feedback with council before then, as you did today, and we can look at that and what it would mean operationally to do.
I've gotten my rear end 3 times trying to get over the windrows into my truck. It is a safety issue. That snow is plowed right underneath vehicles. It's plowed up over the running rails, everything else. So, I mean, it's a huge concern. So I'd like you to consider that as well, because someone goes on their rear end and ends up in the hospital. You know what's going to happen. I know what's going to happen. There'll be a lawsuit. So
I'm wondering if I could just interject. Jonathan, do you have the date? Is it in September when the snow clearing is coming up to us? Because that might be a meeting you'd like to come to. Because we'll have a public meeting and a discussion. Tammy?
September 11th.
Okay.
It's September 11th.
September 11th. So if you're free on September 11th, mark that in your calendar. We start at 6 p.m. And if there's an item on the agenda, the public, I can turn to the public and say, if you have any questions or concerns or comments, you'll be allowed to speak on it since it's on the agenda that night. You're welcome.
Pat, can I say one thing about
Sure.
that? Can the graders at least lift their blade when they go past the mailboxes? There can't be that many mailboxes that would be a problem. I can't get over a drift this high from my car to my mailbox.
Okay, maybe we can make a note of that and it can be part of our discussion on September 11th.
Canada Post.
Yeah, Canada Post lets us know when there's issues, believe me. Sure, and we talk to them regularly through the winter, so we'll make sure we pay attention to that.
We need a better solution for post office boxes. It causes seniors especially tremendous grief. I want to go back. This one works, Pat, thanks. I want to go back to your point about the danger of windrows when they're plowing in your streets. And I would be really interested to find out from our infrastructure or from people with lived experience whether it's worse on some streets than others. Like does it make a difference? And so I live in the old area of downtown. The mayor has a name for the area.
I do not. You're the one who named it. How dare you.
So I live on a street across from a school. And so, you know, we're, as old as we are, we're plowing out those 4-foot windrows in front of our driveway as well. And I'm wondering if there isn't, you know, some plan in the offing where this Park Lane Drive, Park Lane, like you're talking about, is a different context than area, say, where I live in the downtown, that is a bus pickup route or a place where hundreds of parents pick up their children every day. And I think that would be a useful exercise to undertake. Do we have to apply the same standard in every neighborhood all the time? And Linda Ferguson's point about the mailboxes, I think, is something that's becoming, you know, as our winters are more mercurial and there's more ice, and, you know, it's just becoming more and more treacherous, especially for a senior in a community with 25% of our population being seniors. It's really not a good thing. The other thing that I wanted to address is the speeding on Park Lane Drive, and that is something that came to council slightly less than 2 years ago. And we did undertake a study on Park Lane Drive, and they did find some excessive speeds, but not enough to do more than take more than the action they did take, which was to put that flashing light in on the pathway by the canal. And they put that in there because of all the young people that are walking from the Holy Cross Collegiate and Sacred Heart across that pathway. And the people who live on the south side of the street in that area have said it has made a difference. But we know that it's a speedway. I've seen it myself.
Make a difference. However, if you go further east
Yeah,
on Park Lane,
Yeah.
by the lift station,
yeah.
and that, as soon as people come along, come off Freeman Trail,
Yeah.
they just hammer their gas pedal.
It is a speedway. I've
And-
seen it, yeah.
At the curve, You know, they start slowing down a bit, and then conversely, when they're going east at the curve, they hammer the gas. We've had people come down there at 120 clicks.
And that
You
was
know, and you
confirmed.
turn around, and
Yeah.
yes, you know, you have had your bylaw out there occasionally, and I'll use the term occasionally. However, try it at 6 o'clock in the morning.
So do you think that it would be useful, so you said that the flashing light has helped on the one end, that it has made a difference. We also now have a school zone just on the other side, on George Freeman Trail, where we have lots of other kids walking to school as well.
where?
On George Freeman Trail, we have another school now.
Yes.
And so, you know, having a raceway in between, where you have literally hundreds upon hundreds of children walking every day,
Yeah.
do you think there is some use in doing a test to see if we could put another flashing light in on the curve on the other side of the
Well, I don't think it's
Is there a
necessarily on the
crosswalk
curve.
capacity?
I think probably, and you've put a pedestrian light in now across from, well, right at your lift station. I
Yeah.
believe the address
Yeah.
is about 57, something like
Yeah.
that. There's a pedestrian light that's gone in because of numerous complaints by a person, and that, it does no good. They just, away they go.
So we need to alert bylaw for,
Pardon me?
so it's a bylaw situation.
Well, personally, I think it is. But, you know, somewhere along the line, I mean, people work. So at 10 o'clock in the morning, you're going to get people ripping down there? Occasionally, yes. It's 6 o'clock in the morning, and try it at 7, 8, and 9 o'clock at night. Because Park Lane Drive is an escape exit out of the city, or out of the town. It always has been since it's been developed. So, you know, younger generation now, they've been a lot better about drinking and driving than when I was young, because that was a thing to do. It isn't anymore, you know, and I give them credit for that, but it's still an escape route. So you get the guys in their trucks that go bombing down there, you get the guys in their cars, everything else. There's noise. I mean, I've got pictures of vehicles, license plate, and the driver. That is a constant menace on that road. You know, you turn around and it's ridiculous. It really is. And it just seems like something that's been totally ignored. And this has been going on well before this council's time. And it has been brought up when, can't remember his name, but I mean, it's been brought up when Steve Grashik was around, everything else. You know, and it just seems like that area is a lost area, because excuse me for a minute, I'll even bring the development again. When that area was first stripped, Strathmore had a development officer. I don't know whether they do anymore. But I approached them at one time because of the dust when they were stripping that. We had to have our floors replaced. It cost us $7,000. And that we provided pictures. You couldn't see the back of your property line. You couldn't see 10 feet off your deck. We approached the development officer and he said, "What do you want me to do about it?" Well, my background's in the construction industry, as a site superintendent and then beyond. What do you want? What I want you to do about it? Shut them down. They have to live by their development permit and do what they say, and they're not doing it. And you know, that's one of the concerns again, and I'm digressing here, but it's so frustrating that that whole area seems to be ignored.
If I can jump in
Yeah.
just for a second. When it comes time to develop this new phase that Anthem is doing, if you're finding again that dust is becoming a real issue, we all have our numbers posted on the town website. You can call us and we will talk to our infrastructure team and our CAO as far as improving that goes. Yes, our CAO did look into it on the west side of town. The other thing I can say is we have the staff sergeant of the RCMP coming in quarterly to do reports. If you keep an eye on our meeting agendas, maybe you can come on the night of staff sergeant there. We can also bring this forward to our staff sergeant as far as the speed on Park Lane Drive, for sure. Now that we're all aware of the concerns again, we can talk to our CAO and talk to the staff sergeant regarding some possible plans for Park Lane Drive. I have questions from the people who've submitted some, so I thought we could maybe do one or two questions that have been submitted beforehand, and then I can go back to the audience if that's okay. So if you can remember your questions, we'll come to you. We had a question about water restrictions, and we've received many questions. And is there an update on restrictions, and when can we expect to be back to normal? So I want to thank all the residents for obviously helping to reduce our water usage as much as we did. I'm really proud of Strathmore residents. You reduced our target was 25% reduction daily, and we were very, very close to that. We exceeded it on several times. And so I was really happy with that. And like Calgary, we can ease our indoor water restrictions. We still need to continue as we ease back into normal water use. Obviously, you guys have done some of these things to space out your laundry, your showers, if you can reduce shower time, your dishwasher runs, but indoor usage is back to normal. And stage 4 outdoor water restrictions are still currently in effect. So I know a lot of people have been sharing on Facebook different ways they've been using to collect rainwater. I know my wife and I this is the first year in our 40 years here that we've been putting bins under our eaves trough drain pipe. And so I know that's spread throughout the town. This is the first time my wife and I have talked about getting a rain barrel too, as far as hand watering outdoor plants. So very proud and very pleased with Strathmore residents. Thank you for all your efforts that you did. And we're excited to announce that the lap pool in the town aquatic center is open. Residents are welcome to enjoy the lap pool. And while the pool is reopening, the hot tub, water slide, and kiddie pool remain closed. And over the last week, the town has been finishing some much needed repairs to the water slide, kiddie pool, and hot tub. And once these have all been completed and the pool staff receive satisfactory pool chemistry results from AHS, the hot tub and kiddie pool will be open as well. Last night we had a session in our public council meeting on garage and garden suites. And the question is, I've heard that there is a possibility of putting an income suite on my property. Is this permitted in Strathmore? And I can tell you this, that last night council approved the town's first garage and garden suite bylaw. Now this is not a blanket zoning change or anything like that. It's just to allow people, if they want to try to spend the money to convert a garage or put a unit above a garage, there are strict rules that must be followed. It's not necessarily an easy process to get to have one of these. But again, it's a way we thought that could help with the housing crisis in this town. It also could be a way for both young people who have maybe bought a home with a detached garage on an alley, that they could help pay their mortgage down. And also it could be a way to help seniors stay in their property longer. If they have the money to develop a garage suite, then they can stay on their property longer if their health permits and they have income coming in. So I just want to assure you that it's not going to be a blanket thing where people are developing them right and left. There are very many rules and controls that have to be followed. Applications for garage and garden suite permits will be available through the town office and online in the coming weeks. And the difference between, there was a question about the difference between tiny homes and garage and garden suite. A garage suite means a second accessory dwelling unit on a parcel located above or adjacent to a garage structure. So that's a separate living space, that's a garage suite. A garden suite is a second accessory dwelling unit on a parcel to be used as a separate accommodation that is accessory to the principal building. Tiny home does not require another primary building on the property and can stand alone. We don't have any tiny homes at this time. We had a workshop last night on tiny homes where we learned about it. But again, I just want to reassure you that this isn't going to be happening all over town. It's not like Calgary did with their zoning change. This is just something where if someone decides they want to invest some money in their garage and create a living unit, that there are steps and regulations and permitting would have to be followed to do that. So it allows for people to have income coming in on their property, but it also puts controls and checkpoints in as far as that goes.
Your Worship,
So,
if I
yes,
could jump in on
Melissa.
this for just a couple more points. Could also be a great way to get your 25-year-old son out of the basement and into the backyard. As a young person, I can say that. But one other concern I've heard raised about garage and garden suites is concerns around parking, especially street parking. And I want to reassure people that within the bylaw that was approved the bylaw amendment that was approved last night, there is a requirement that for each garden or garage suite that is constructed, an additional parking space must be included. So we are adding parking on top of what is existing at that residence to hopefully try and mitigate street congestion and traffic control issues. So I want to just reassure people that we have heard about the concerns around parking, and we did include some measures within the bylaw amendment to address that.
Thank you, Councillor Langmaid. So I can turn to the audience if there's a question again, and then we'll go back to the online questions. I think, Lloyd, you had your hand up at one point as far as Park Lane Drive discussion.
I have a lot of discussion on Park Lane.
Sure, I understand.
Lloyd Penner. I live right 98 Park Lane Drive, and I see all this activity started up there a couple of days ago across from my house. Not a word mentioned, not a letter sent or a phone call from one of the councillors. That was expected. I expected that because I have come to realize that Strathmore is no longer the council that it used to be. They used to have a council where you could contact the administrator and have a little chat with him during the day or whatever. It's all in the past. Now it's all just hush, hush, hush. I hate to be that negative.
Sorry, Lloyd, I just want to interject when you make a strong statement like that. We all have our cell numbers posted on the Town of Strathmore website. Nobody's called me as far as some of these strong concerns you have. And as a council, we're a governance body. We set rules, regulations, policies, bylaws. We don't necessarily know when a subdivision is going to start construction until we see driving
Okay.
around, we see the pegs put
That's
in the
fair.
ground. Thank you. Carry on.
That's fair. I just, not very long ago, in fact, I did have a letter in my possession. I don't know whether I still have or not, but I had a letter in my possession that told me from years back that there would never be an intersection coming onto Park Lane Drive in front of my house.
All I can tell you on that is, I don't think if it was a counselor that person should have given you that kind of strong statement and promised anything into the far future.
Yeah.
Because there are things that change, and obviously developers change. I think, sorry, I forgot your first name.
Cam.
Pardon me?
Cam.
So like Cam was saying, the change went from 50-foot lots to 35-foot. It sounds cliche, but times change and there are adjustments to things. So I don't think one council can handcuff a next council and say that'll never happen, because things can change. We're a bigger community now. And as far as that connector road, all I can say as far as my knowledge is, it was always going to be a connector road. That's what I had been told. That's what I had seen.
Mr. Mayor, would you
Yes.
tell me what exactly is the plan there? Is there right turns and left turns entering on Park Lane?
Well, I can
Or what's the plan?
turn to our infrastructure people and they can tell you a little more about what they know. Again, because we're not involved in everything going on as far as development. We're involved at a higher level approving things, but we can definitely get that, hopefully get you some answers for that. Jamie?
It will be a full intersection there. So not just right in, right out, it'll be a full intersection there. I assume there'll be a stop sign on the east-west road?
Jenny,
And if the stop sign is on Park Lane Drive going east-west, that would also help with speed reduction, I would think, too. Coming out of the ranch? Well, we can definitely look into that and see if it might even be a three-way stop as far as traffic control and mediation. We can definitely look into that.
Stopping the collector road traffic. And you got traffic coming up.
Well, we'll definitely get an answer for you as far as how that connector road is going to be linking and traffic movement onto Park Lane Drive.
And the other concern is, and excuse me for interrupting, on the east end of Park Lane, you have a daycare right in the corner, or a day home. They're what? They're not there anymore. Well, then, did they finally sell their house?
No, but they dissolved their daycare over a year ago.
No, they didn't, because cars were still parking out front, right on the corner. It wasn't over a year ago. Secondly, you got a taxi cab company across the street with 5 vehicles parked there. His employees parked down the street, and the entry into on the right-hand turn where the park is. That's where employees park, and you could have even cabs parked there for 3-4 weeks. But you have another business there as well, so what do people do about that? How are you going to provide access and egress that goes easily?
That's definitely a good question, and we can look into that as well. Our staff will take note of that, and we can see what we can come up with that. And I know we have the taxi company coming as a delegation as we get closer to passing an amended taxi bylaw, and that could be something, they're coming as a delegation to a September meeting. We could ask some questions of them regarding that parking situation too.
And even that, I'll go to the west end. I'm sorry again, I don't know what's going on. But I'll go to the west end. You had a paint company there and a hairdressing company there. I don't know whether the hairdresser is still there or not, but that's where the road narrows, by the pump station. The whole works. What are you gonna do there? If somebody parks on the north side of the road, you can't get by. If there's a vehicle on the north side, and last night there's a truck and a trailer there, you can't get by. So what are you gonna do? You're gonna take somebody's house out or take 2 or 3 houses out? About that.
My thought on this whole thing is that the whole plan of Park Lane Drive was, the concept originally, I talked to people that have since passed away that were in the business, developing houses in town, and they said that there was a good plan, and it was not a thoroughfare, and never was planned for that. And the council came in later on and decided that council or whatever. I mean, I don't know how the workings go, but they decided to go ahead and start building. And they built, and with no plan in advance. Right now, we don't have a plan in advance. But anyway, I'll leave it at that. I'm quite disappointed in the way the plans took place here. There's no communication. You can't see your counselor. You can phone them. You can get them on YouTube or something like that if you're a techie. But if you don't have all those facilities at your disposal.
But Lloyd, you can phone me anytime and set up a meeting with me. I'll meet with you anytime you want. I just haven't gotten calls from people to meet with me privately, so I'll definitely meet with you.
I think everybody's frustrated. That's
Okay.
my thought.
Okay. I will offer something as far as Park Lane Drive being a connector road and a busy road. I lived on Cambridge Glen Drive for 16 years. I don't know if you know that street. That's the one with the trees up the middle. It's near Sagewood. It's the street that goes north-south. And I remember being at my staff room at Strathmore High where I taught, and I was complaining about the speed and the traffic on Cambridge Glen Drive. And one of my teachers turned to me and he said, "You bought a house on a road that ends with drive. It's going to be a connector. Memorial Drive in Calgary, Centennial Drive is east-west and it's a connector. Park Lane Drive Thomas Drive, they're all connector roads that have a lot of traffic. I don't want the speed. I totally agree that we have to watch the speed. But to me, those are connector roads. They get you to George Freeman Trail, or with Thomas Drive, they get you to Brent Boulevard and 817. But I think in the early days, if people are saying, if someone was saying that Park Lane Drive would never be a connector, they were wrong, because it's an east-west road, and it has the word drive in it. I don't mean to belittle this or make fun of it. It's just, it has the word drive in it, and it is a connector. It is a connector road to George Freeman Trail. Councillor Mitzner? Here, I'll give you mine.
The additional intersection, maybe you're saving grace because people will go directly past the ranch for direct access rather than go Park Lane Drive if there's another intersection to stop at. That may help your,
How do you mean go past the ranch?
well, at the four-way stop on Center Street, you can go directly to the highway versus going out to the east. Because as I've lived here my entire life, we have enough four-way stops, and people tried to eliminate stop, stop, stop. So it might help your traffic situation.
Right, but you're also putting 200 new residents in there. And most residents now have a minimum of 2 cars. That's 400 vehicles.
We can definitely get you information on what's planned in that latest phase of Ranch, and that will include that connector road to Park Lane and hopefully the buffer space that you're looking for, if that's of a help. Jamie, how do you see that information coming out to these folks?
Well, if we can get everyone's name, number, contact information today. I know we've got a couple of inquiries through email already to our planning staff and infrastructure. We can certainly get some response to them. We've already sent, I think, a response to one individual. But I would like to clarify that the subdivision design piece is not a council decision. Subdivision design is approved by staff. So between our planning staff, infrastructure staff, and obviously using operations group as well as fire and EMS, that's who approves subdivision. So it's not a council decision. Council approves land use, but that's kind of where their involvement ends. So I just wanted to clarify that. But we will take everyone's contact information that's concerned about the future plans for Ranch Phase 5 and get some responses to them.
And Jamie, Cam had a question about the pathway system. Would that be shown in this same thing that is given to them as information? Would it show the pathway system?
Yes, I can't recall, I don't have the plan in front of me, I can't recall if there's a pathway planned or not or what it looks like, but typically the pathway would be shown as MR through that subdivision approval, so.
Councillor Peterson?
Thank you, Your Worship. And I think too, if that pathway plan that you referenced, if you have input into that, that would be really useful as well.
Well, just to join it up.
Yeah.
For people to walk, you have a pathway coming along the WID onto Park Lane. And it goes across the street, but doesn't go anywhere else.
Yeah.
You know, most of the people that designed all this don't live in Strathmore. You know, they haven't even walked or rode the pathways. They have no idea. You know, people don't know there is not a walkway between the first house on Park Lane or right by the pump station to join up with the path. It's just gravel and weeds. It's nothing else. They don't even know there's not a place to walk down there, that you have to go on the road in the winter.
It's an excellent point, because we work really hard. Nobody's worked harder than our mayor to connect all the pathways in the community, and that isn't a place that really needs to attention coming up. It definitely does.
I mean, I'll invite anyone out,
Yeah.
any one of you
Oh,
out to
I know
153
it,
Park
yeah.
Lane, and I'll take you out back.
Yeah.
I mean, we've turned around, and since day one, actually, my next door neighbor, his name was Trevor Spence, and his father served in this council years and years and years ago.
Angus?
Yeah.
He and I, we purchased sod. We sodded back. I told United, Paul Davis, who was a project manager at that time, we're going to squat in your land because you're doing nothing to upkeep it. So we sodded. So it's nice, it's attractive, you know, aesthetically, everything else, but it's usable. So our next door neighbor, they did it. Now, if you take a drive down Park Lane and look down there, you'll see it's all nice and green, it's cut down. People use it to play bocce ball. They use it to play volleyball. Everything else because there's an area there. There's nothing else around. You know, we talk about, and I'm digressing again, we talk about, you know, the speeding, and now there's a pedestrian crosswalk in by the lift station. Dwight Stanford, years ago, we approached him because of it. Either put speed bumps in or put a playground sign up. Because that park is used by the schools when it's in, and Mr. Mayor, you might know that, but the new school, they come walking down, they go into the forest behind, it's used, the whole works. But what's there? Like, we've gone on 20 years trying to do this, and nothing's been done.
Pardon me.
Put a playground sign, pretty easy.
Pardon me for interjecting. This is, seemed to be almost a plan, like, to keep delaying it and delaying it. You know, so people forget, but they don't forget. And it just gets worse, just like suggesting that maybe, and I appreciate your comment, Mrs. Counselor. I appreciate your comment about, you know, if you make it so awkward, then they'll go a different direction. That seems to be the way that Strathmore is being designed. It just falling over itself in the parking lots and in developments. That's not just my thoughts. Those are thoughts I gathered from other people. Thank you.
Well, we'll try to get information to you. If you leave contact information, we will get word to you and get a plan so you can see what's coming for that ranch area. Hopefully we can look at the buffer zone and see what the pathway system is. Maybe there'll be, I know there are other areas in the Strathmore Lakes area where we had a buffer zone created and a green space and a pathway was put in connecting to the Strathmore Lake pathway system. So we can look at getting you all that information. Again, I want to encourage you. My phone number is on the town website. You can call me, you can email me. I try to respond. Even if I'm watching TV in the evening and someone sends me an email, I try to respond as quickly as I can via return email. And I'll try to get you the information. So we're not hiding, we're not running from you. We want to get you the information. I just feel badly that you might have been told some information many years ago that isn't accurate or couldn't be held up many years later, because obviously the town changes and you can't necessarily speak that something will never happen 20 years from now. That's what concerns me, as someone was giving that kind of information out when they probably shouldn't have.
Mr. Mayor, excuse me, but that's going on for 20 years.
Yeah.
Because all the people that back onto
Yeah.
Clybur's old land there,
Yeah.
every one of them was told that that land was owned by the WID. And then Grant came, well, I'm sorry,
No,
it
I'm
was,
not disagreeing. I'm
by
just,
all the builders, realtors, everything else.
no, I wasn't disagreeing with you. I just feel
It
badly
wasn't,
that
that
information.
land was owned by Grant Clyburn and his family.
Okay.
Right up to our property line.
Okay, yeah, I'm sorry about what information you got in the past. This Anthem development is we had lunch, our CAO had lunch with the owner last year, and then another meeting with them this spring, and he was telling us their next phase is ready to go anytime, and that's what you're seeing now. So I don't know what the land was, and I wasn't trying to disagree with you. I just feel badly that someone was telling this kind of stuff. And again, maybe the land was sold to Anthem or to this company, but we will try to get you all that information as far as what you can see that's coming for that ranch phase.
Right.
Okay,
Now, may I say one thing in closing, and then I'll be quiet?
sure.
When this development, the new development, when they wanted to add the additional units by the soccer field, okay? And I spoke to that. That was defeated. Thank you very much for that. But I also made a comment. You have signs on the outskirts of the city where quality of life is a way of life. And in that meeting, where the proposal was put in front of you, all I heard was, and I said that at that time, all I heard was, well, we have to do this for these people and we have to do this for these people. And my response to that is, what are you going to do for the current residents of Strathmore? that helped build this community. Everything else, they have property, they looked after it, they're proud of it. Everything else, and it doesn't matter whether it's Strathmore, Calgary, or whatever, they walk into it and they poop all over them, for lack of a better word. Excuse me, but, you know, that just happens. There's no consideration for the present and current and past people. New development comes in, let's give them the world. To heck with them, we already got them. They're already paying taxes.
Well, my hope is that when this plan comes out that you can see, you'll see that there are things that are being done to give you a buffer zone, or to have a pathway system, or to give you answers on that connector road and how you get on and off Park Lane Drive. That's my hope. So we're not forgetting about you. We're going to get you that information, and then you can always come, you can contact our town office and come as a delegation if you'd like to speak more at another council meeting. We'll definitely hear you out. And I know you mentioned the fact that we defeated things. When we make decisions, we're trying to make decisions based on what we think is good for the overall community. So it could be said that quality of life is also, we need to consider, how do we get people into home ownership? How do we get young people into families? How do we get older people who need to downsize and have a smaller home and property available that they can afford? So we have to wear all sorts of hats as far as how we try to help people in a variety of ways. So quality of life could also be helping people attain home ownership too.
I understand that, and I don't dispute that whatsoever. However, the attractive point of Strathmore to a lot of people was the 50-foot lots. Mm-hmm. You get a larger lot and you're not paying the prices in Calgary and everything else. Now you've downsized it. Okay, they're going to be cheaper. Okay, but they're still going to be out of reach for a lot of people, you know, no matter what you do. And what it's going to, I mean, I think you've done, and we have a realtor here, I think you've done this town a disservice by turning around and approving 35-foot lots in there. You know, and I'm going to talk basically, I mean, we talked about, okay, do the perimeter in 50-foot lots, and then the inside part doing your 35-foot lots. But why are you affecting every house along on the north side of Park Lane? Because you go to the other side, you go to the south side, they're all 50-foot lots. They're not 35. I don't understand that. And nobody has been able to explain it to me. As I said, I'm not trying to digress or lengthen this sit down out, but there's a lot of questions that haven't been answered and just ignored.
Well, I think that ranch plan,
us as residents, we have no idea what's going on. None.
again, I think that ranch plan, if we can get that to you, you'll be able to see what's planned. And I don't know exactly what's going there. I don't know if there are 50-foot lots or if there are lots for townhouses and then smaller ones. Off the top of my head, I haven't seen the latest plan in the last little while.
Last one I saw, they were all approved for 35-foot lots.
Okay, well, we'll be able to get you some information concerning that.
Please.
Okay, I'm wondering if we could go on to some of the online questions that have also come in about other things in town.
Can I just follow up?
Sure.
So I just want to say too that I understand what you're saying in terms of feeling pushed out, pushed on. I live in an area of Strathmore which was designated for density, to build density, and in the downtown, and it was a really, really difficult transition. And we've lived here for 40 years. And so in that environment, we watched all the old homes in our community be bulldozed and go into small homes, condominiums, apartment buildings, all around us. And so one of the things, I guess, that I have had to come to a peace with, and I have, is that it was a good decision by the council. It wasn't one that I particularly liked. But what I have seen now, in the last 15 years in my area, is hordes of young families that have moved in who have affordable living in apartment buildings and side-by-sides and fourplexes and sixplexes that are all around us. and that the street is filled with parking now. But the other side of that is that our downtown has been revitalized. And I can't deny that. You know, when I came onto council, the downtown was a ghost town, and that's not the same today. And that downtown has been revitalized because of the actions of councils that predated me and currently. And so I didn't like it, but I have come to make peace with it. And I see the wisdom in it, but it didn't benefit us at all. I also think that it benefited the schools in the area, and that in turn benefited the rest of the community from a tax base. And Mr. Penner is absolutely correct. This is not the same community. My husband was on council when we had 1,800 people, and it was a time when you could call up the CAO or you could call up the mayor and you could do what you needed to do in the time that you had to do it. And it was a much easier time and there was much more capacity to be responsive. But we have 15,000 people today, and the rules around how councils are allowed to perform and how we're allowed to act are different as well. So I want to say that from the perspective of council and the 5 terms that my husband served on council and the 10 years that I've been here, this council has been one of the most proactive councils that I've seen in terms of trying to reach out to residents and trying to do this. And the mayor is absolutely correct. You know, because we have a strong leadership team and because of the way that governance and operations are structured, we don't always know. I didn't know about the garbage situation until Linda Ferguson called me, and I was at a housing meeting and called me at 10 o'clock at night to say that this had happened, and that's when I found out. So we depend on you. So Lloyd Penner has said, you know, it's difficult to get a hold of people, but Lloyd has my phone number, and I don't know that we've ever agreed on a single thing. But we've had some pretty good scraps over the years, and I have certainly respected the information that you've brought because I know that you represent a group of people in this community that are really important. And I don't want you to think that you're not, because you are. You've been integral to the community, you continue to be integral to the community, and you are heard. And I think that there will be proof in that over the next few days that you have been heard. And I just also, while we were waiting, I texted my husband to say, where do we bring our waste? Because he had exactly the same issues as you. He didn't want to teeter on a box to dump the garbage. And one of the options is, and it may not be a satisfactory one, but Waste Management still does take garbage. And he said that we have a contract with them and he takes his recycling to Waste Management.
Thank you, and even though we're a town of 15,000, you can call me at any time, and I'll all of us. But for those of you who are at home, if you have a pen or a paper, I'll give you my phone number. It's Pat Fuel, and if you want to jot it down here, that's great. I'm not giving it to you, Brandon, because you're media. You're not to be truthful. No. My number, Pat Fuel, my number is 403-324-3314. And you can call or text me, and I'll try to get you answers. I think we have cards out in the front, and we have a brochure of who's who in the zoo. Yeah. All right, I do have some questions that are coming in for other things that are important to Strathmore residents. The next one is, I've seen some groups getting sponsorship money from the town. How is that decided? We have a community delegation night, and it's scheduled for October 23rd, 2024 at 6:30 p.m. It's an opportunity for nonprofit community groups to come and request funding from the town. Having all requests come in during one meeting allows for all community groups interested in requesting funding for the upcoming year an equal opportunity to speak and present before council, and for council to get all relevant information to make informed decisions during our budget talks. So that's October 23rd, 6:30 p.m. Council will hear the requests from the community and allocate funds that will fit within the town of Strathmore's budget and align with our strategic priorities. Non-for-profit groups can register for this community night by filling out a delegation request form online by October 2nd, 2024. We also have many budget discussions that take place in the fall as we prepare to approve the 2025 budget. We have 4 meetings set up for budget deliberations for the 2025 budget being scheduled, and then the approval is scheduled for December 4th of this year. Another important question that's come online is dealing with doctors in town, and I know this is a problem all across Canada. The question is, it's so hard to find a doctor taking patients in town. When will we get new doctors? And I can tell you this, that in May of this year, Town Council approved a new grant program to help in bringing in new doctors to town. It's a pilot program for local medical offices with the hopes of encouraging the practices to sponsor new physicians. So in other words, for a clinic to try to bring in a doctor from out of Canada or to bring in an overseas doctor, it's very costly to go through all the steps, the paperwork, the different things to do. So in May, we approved the grant format where different clinics could apply, and then we help with the funding so that they can try to attract and train and mentor new doctors. The town of Strathmore is offering 3 grants up to $30,000 each to eligible clinic applicants on a first-come, first-served basis. To be eligible for the grant, applicants must have signed a sponsorship contract with CPSA before applying, agreeing to commit to sponsoring the internationally trained doctor for up to 6 years, including financially supporting the sponsored physician throughout the registration process, practice readiness assessment, and agree to pay the grant back to the town should the doctor practice in the town for less than 5 years. So in other words, we're ponying up some money, quite a bit of money, 3 grants, to help clinics attract international doctors, train them, mentor them, sponsor them, get them through all the documentation and red tape processes. And we hope that that will bring in 3, we've got 2 already applications coming to us. So we're hoping that this financial help to a clinic will help us bring in 3 new doctors over the next 3 years. I have a question about our solar farm in town. I would like an update on the solar panel project costs and benefits to the town. I just want to tell you that the solar farm is owned and operated by a company called Capital Power. The town of Strathmore invested no money into bringing in the solar farm here. What we do is we lease the land. We have a long-term lease with Capital Power that brings in $180,000 a year. And then on top of those lease payments, we also receive property taxes. So the town benefits financially about $400,000 a year for that land that is on the south side of the Trans-Canada. There were no costs to the town. And as part of being good stewards of the land, Capital Power has an agreement with a ranch to bring in sheep to graze the land. They have dogs that stay with the sheep and herd them. And I believe they've also brought in pigs recently too. So that's helping to control the weeds, the clover, the grasses, and it's been a really good thing for our town because we never had to put any investment in. And I have a question on utility billing. We are seeing a charge on our electric and gas bills showing a payment to the town of Strathmore. I believe that this is the same charge that is in dispute with the provincial government, and it should be returned to homeowners. Can you update on this? And I can turn to our CAO, Kevin Scoville, for this.
So on your bill, you'll see franchise fees, and it's not related to what's being done in Calgary and Edmonton. The provincial government is regulating it differently for those metro areas. So nothing has changed in Strathmore. So franchise fees, basically, you know, the gas and the electric runs on town land. So the town, when you put all those right-of-ways together, that's a big loss in taxation revenue to a town or a city. So basically, the utility companies are charged a lease, which the municipalities are permitted to do under provincial legislation. So the utility companies turn that into a franchise fee. So basically, it is a flow-through cost. But the franchise fees are actually cheaper than if the franchise fees were removed, and then they become property tax. And the reason that works is everybody that has an electrical account pays a franchise fee. There's more utility customers than there is taxable property. So things like the courthouse, the Fish and Wildlife Office, they aren't taxed. They're exempted from tax, but they have to pay the franchise fee. So if we're to reduce franchise fees, the property taxes will actually go up more. So it's actually a bit of a method of tax relief to residents.
Thank you, CAO Scoville. I have a question here about, this just came in. Could the town or CAO or staff please explain how the decision to change garbage pickup was made and how has any action been undertaken to ensure this doesn't happen again? So can we just get a little basic background on how this first came about? And I just want to point out, it wasn't a decision, like it wasn't something written in stone that had happened. It was the early process of things. CAO Scoville.
So lanes need maintaining over time. You probably all noticed the garbage trucks keep getting bigger. As well, when you switch to automated collection as we have, the weight of the trucks increases even more because you've got that lifting arm and all the equipment on it. So it is harder on the lanes. And the lanes need to be maintained. If they're not maintained, they'll get to a point of failure where we have to come in and rebuild them, which is significantly more expensive. So administration had the best intent in mind to keep costs down. Unfortunately, there wasn't the best consideration given to the impact on the residents. So we're not pursuing that, but we still do need to maintain the lanes, or we're going to get into lane rebuilds, which will be significantly more expensive, and you won't be able to use your lane for a long period of time. So there are other methods that I've used in other communities. We're going to look at those. We don't have final details yet, but the way to think about it would be more like a street sweeping of your front street. We're going to have to come through from time to time to maintain the lanes, and that means grading them and putting more gravel down so that the lanes don't keep failing. And so from time to time, probably once a year, every 2 years, we're going to have to work out the details. We're going to have to ask you to treat it like a street sweeping. So we'll ask you to do things like get anything that's stored or any vehicles in the lane out of there. They're not permitted to be there in the first place. And it should be relatively not impactful on most residents. I drove most of the lanes on Monday, and generally residents are doing a very good job of their part in the lanes. The biggest impact to most residents will be, whatever the frequency is, once a year or once every couple of years, we'll be asking you to put your garbage cans back on your property, inside your fence or whatever, for a week while we get in there with the graders to fix them up. But we do need to do something there. Or we'll all be paying a significant amount of money to rebuild those lanes. By maintaining them, we can avoid the rebuilds. So we do apologize. Like I said, the best intent was there to provide the most value to the taxpayers, but I don't think we gave due consideration to the impacts of moving to front. So there are other ways to do it, but we're going to need your help to do that.
Thank you, CAO Scoville. The next question has to do with park maintenance. I'm just wondering if Gray's Park is going to get weeded this year. You guys have a serious ragweed invasion underway, leaving the park not looking so great. It's even growing in the middle of some of the gravel paths now, and someone is going to hurt themselves in a gopher hole on the trail at some point, as it's a safety hazard. Any comments we can have as far as park maintenance in regards to Gray's Park? Jamie.
Bless you.
So I did pose this question to our operations manager and park staff. They've just weeded it actually just yesterday, and they'll do an inspection on the pathway to make sure it is safe for residents. Broadly speaking, residents should also know that Grace Park is an environmental reserve, so it's meant to be mostly natural. Of course, with pathways through there, we have to maintain those as well, but our park staff is on top of it. So, thank you.
Thank you, Jamie. We have a question about the Wheatland Housing Management Board and the hospice. I can tell you that last night we approved a letter of support for the project. So we have still, council is still behind the project. We've had different initiatives voted on and approved. We've earmarked land on the east side of Kinsman Park. It's never really been park land, but it's on the eastern border. We have committed to providing that land as part of the town's contribution to the project. And we're waiting to see how the housing management body will do with their next round of negotiations and approvals with the province. But last night we did approve a letter of support. I have a question about waste, question about waste collection and recycling. Person has asked, why wasn't my garbage collected? And these are some of the reasons that a person's garbage may not be collected. Carts may not have been put out on time. Collection of carts happens between 7 a.m. and 10 p.m. as per our bylaw, but it's typically completed by 5 p.m. If your garbage was missed at the fault of our waste collection services, the truck can return the next operating day. Sometimes a cart may not have been collected because there's unsuitable material in the cart, and if that happens, a tag is left to inform the resident. And sometimes the carts are placed too close to an object, to another object, and again, tags are left to educate and to advise the resident as far as why that cart was not picked up. There's a question about why is there not a consistent time for garbage collection? Collection times can vary for multiple reasons. Driver and equipment issues, route changes, even weather can affect that. Cart collection again occurs between 7 a.m. and 10 p.m. And again, it's typically collected by 5 p.m. If your carts are out by 7 a.m. on your collection day, they should be collected. Flipping to the end of my questions online. When will the town move to blue cart curbside collection? And for those people who aren't in the know or don't know that, blue cart is recyclables. With the new EPR, which is extended producer responsibility, in the final stages with the province, the town is working with the Alberta Recycling Management Authority on what would be acceptable in blue carts versus what would be considered to go to landfill. We are expecting a rollout of some version in 2025. So we're hoping that we will be moving to some blue cart recycle pickups in 2025, but it'll come down to the discussions we have to find out exactly what's acceptable in the carts. And we're close to the end, but if anybody has a question, sure. And if you could just state your name for the people watching at home.
Hi, I'm Bev Bell. We are new residents to Strathmore, and we love it. We're very happy to be here. One of the interesting things that have happened from people coming to visit us, we moved in from Calgary, was that they couldn't see the street signs because they're so faint. Centennial and Thomas is a good example of that. I did question that. I did send in through the website, and I was told that that's on the, it's regularly handled through, an ongoing plan to replace street signs when they need it. But I'm wondering, when do they need it? When's the point where you go, oh, I put my light on, I looked at it. So people have had a hard time finding their way in to our place. And I guess the other part is, I love the comment about the revitalization of the downtown, because I think that's really important to a community like Strathmore. And I'd love to see signage that indicates the points of interest in town. The example I would give would be High River even has a little sign going in that says, here's where the Heartland stage or Heartland set is. Here's where the campsite is. There's, we could have, where's the rodeo? And where can people go? Because if they're coming in for any reason, or if they're going to the, to see the Chucks, or lots of tournaments going on, baseball tournaments, it'd be great if they had some points of interest that would draw them into the town as well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Councillor Mitzner has been a real push on wayfaring signs, so it's on our radar, and hopefully we can get some of those done. Councillor Mitzner, did you want to speak on that?
If I can add to that, we do have new maps at the front counter that were just produced. They're perfect for visitors. They're a great idea. Cheryl, check with Cheryl at the front counter. We've got great new maps.
Thank you.
You got it. Last week they were they came probably late.
So we'll be looking into wayfaring signage as far as getting people around. And as far as street signs, Jamie, could you speak to how we replace and how, maybe if you've already mentioned Centennial and Thomas as being two signs that could be looked at. We can make note of that.
Yeah, so if you submitted, you said you submitted a CCF online? Sorry, I think that's what we call it, but, okay, great. Yeah, citizen communication form, sorry about the acronyms. But, so if you've submitted that, like you would have heard, we do have a kind of a program that looks at that, but I'll have staff have a closer look at those signs specifically. If they're not legible, then we'll kind of prioritize those ones, so.
And just before I go on, how long have you lived in Strathmore now? When was it that you moved here?
Here in the fall.
Oh, well, welcome to Strathmore. Again, you can get me on my cell phone, and if you want to get me on email, that's on the town website, or it's pat.fuel@strathmore.ca. So feel free to reach out anytime. We had a question that just came in online that wants to know, how much will my property taxes be impacted by a potential new seniors lodge? And I'll turn to sorry, you're not a deputy. Councillor Peterson, you were deputy.
A long time ago. So this is actually a complex question, but it's a pretty straightforward one as well. So first of all, I want to say that the latest numbers from the consultants for the Wheatland Housing Management Body and the Wheatland and Area Hospice Society planning that has been ongoing for the last 3 years intensively has just come out on April the 18th. They came out with the last set of numbers. So, and even those are still being adjusted in real time for a variety of reasons, costs of equipment maintenance, construction costs, all of those things. The best way that I can explain this is to explain it through what it will look like on your 2024 tax bill. And I can do that by talking about my tax bill. And so when we get our tax assessments in the mail or online, there are 2 lines for requisitions on that. I think just 2, right? 2. There's one for schools and there's one for seniors housing. And so on my, and I always look at mine and I figure it out according to how much I pay per year per $100,000 of taxable value on the land where we live, or the house where we live actually, and then I just break it down how much I pay per month. And so currently I pay $9.21 per year per $100,000 of value on the property where we live, which is a below average property in the downtown south. And so if I break that down, I pay approximately, rounded up to $20 a year for my current requisition on the lodge, and $2 a month. So if we were to build a new lodge and keep our existing lodge open, and we would effectively double that cost. So the mortgage on the new building will be $700,000. the approximate cost to run the existing lodge is about $700,000. And so that would double that cost. So I'd be paying $8 a month on my tax bill. I don't detract the importance of that and how much it is, but I believe in it so passionately that it's money that I am prepared to pay, and certainly seniors in this community and people who have seniors in their lives have echoed that clearly. Compared to, like I said, I would pay currently about double the amount I currently pay, so about $20 per $100,000 of value on the home where I live now for seniors housing, but I pay about $280 for school taxes. And I value them both the same. But I just want, looking after seniors has not been extraordinary when you think about the contribution that they brought to the community and the terrible need. So I just want to also say two more things. First of all, most people know that there is a private for-profit company coming into town that's going to build a lodge. They're called Shasta. They're building on the existing lands by the hospital. And they are not a lodge like Wheatland Lodge. They are a health-based, if you like, facility for seniors. They'll have capacity for SL3 and SL4D, which comprises dementia care. They will also have 6 hospice beds, like the Alberta Healthcare hospice beds. And they'll be run under that auspice. That part of that building, the dementia care and the hospice, will be run under the parameters of Alberta Healthcare, which means that those beds can be accessed by anyone. Alberta Healthcare has a very definitive way how they determine who gets what bed, where, and when. And so it's very much needed. It's very much needed in our community. We've estimated that in the next 20 years, we need 400 beds just on the affordable scale for our senior population. So that means that we need Sagewood Aged Care, we need this new Shasta private for-profit that's coming in, we need the existing lodge, and we need the lodge we're building, and we'll still be short beds. So we need them all. The last thing I want to say is that not built into that equation, Wheatland and Area Hospice Society have raised $4.1 million in 8 years. A local community group has raised $4.1 million. It takes my breath away. People sitting in the front row here have been instrumental in building that hospice. They now have enough money. They've made enough money to build the capital side of that project. They want to join the hospice to the lodge to be able to do wraparound care and to make sure that they can maximize operation costs by having the buildings together. At this point in time, we don't know how the operations of that building will be funded. If we do fund it ourselves, which is one of the possibilities, we estimate that it'll cost about $42 per ratepayer, per taxpayer, a year. Or 42 to 48, I believe, is the maximum end of that. Dr. McNeely, who has led this project for several years since its inception, has always used the term for the cost of an extra large pizza, we can operationalize our own hospice. She talks about the difference between the hospice and the new Shasta facility. The new Shasta facility, she said, is like the room at the end of a hall in a hospital. It's not the wraparound services that is the dream of Wheatland and Area Hospice Society that has been embraced by this entire community, the entire community of the County of Wheatland. So when I talk to you about that increase on that ×2 increase, that 100% on my tax bill going from the $10 or $9.21 per 100,000 to 20, the hospice would again double that. But it is a pretty straightforward number. There is another option, and AHS has started to fund other agencies like Wheatland and Area Hospice Society and funding them anywhere from 50 to 75% of their operations. And that is a great hope going forward, but we're unsure of it at this time. So we hope in the very near future, by this fall in fact, that the Wheatland Housing Management Body We'll have a document that will be widely published in newspapers and online and in handouts and media outlets that will give you all the most updated numbers, and it'll also give you that tax calculator. So you'll be able to go in there and just plug in the numbers, and it will be able to tell you exactly how much you'll pay per year, per month on those current numbers. And so, I don't know, Mayor, if there's any other thing I can add?
No, I would just add that Strathmore Town Council has approved various initiatives and various resolutions to support the lodge. So I guess my question or my statement is, if not now, when? And if we put it off, we all know what inflation does. The cost of that new lodge will be incredibly high. So we know there's a waiting list on the current lodge, and we know that we have a large number. I think I'm at the tail end of the baby boom generation, but we know that there's a baby boom population that's going to be large, and they definitely could need group senior care. And if we don't start moving to planning for that, and we're going to be left looking at something far more expensive. So I'm fully behind this. I want to support our seniors as well, and I'm basically one of the seniors now. So I don't mean to be biased, but I've always felt we have to look after our seniors in Strathmore. And I think that brings us to a conclusion, unless someone has another question in our audience. I want to thank you all for being here, our staff who are here, our CAO, senior leadership team. Thank you for being a part of it, our residents here, and if you're at home, hopefully you got some questions answered as well. And again, you have our contact information that can be found on the town website, and you can reach out at any time that's convenient for you. We'll try to get answers to you as soon as we can. Thank you again for being part of this, and I won't see maybe some of you, so have a great summer.